Welcome everyone back to the Cowtown Cats Across podcast. I'm Nicholas, joined by Andy.
Hello, hello.
Well, of course, the NLL had their end of the year awards. We decided to have our own. So for the first time ever, we present to everybody the Cowtown Cats end of the year awards.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, right? Where's the fanfare and the confetti and everything like that? You know what would have made this even better, and maybe this is a good idea for next year, if we could just get all the players on the podcast. So our first award tonight, we're going to talk Defensive Player of the Year. I'll let you kick us off on this one. Who is your Defensive Player of the Year?
Well, I think there's a bit more of an obvious choice here, but I wanted to give some love to Captain Matt Hossack. He basically became captain almost close to mid-season, what with the Chad Cummings trade for Jake Fox, and he really did a good job helping shore up the team and keeping the defense pretty solid throughout. He led the team with 28 caused turnovers. That was more than double than the second place Panther City players. Also tied for the lead with 10 blocks and had 111 loosies. On top of that, he had double-digit points as well. I know he did pretty well in transition in the opportunities that he had, and he had that one goal to help get us into the playoffs against Vancouver.
And I know you mentioned about your obvious choice. I unfortunately did go with the obvious choice, Nick Damude. I think he learned from his mistakes as the year went on. Gosh, those last few games, especially even just like the losses that we had, he played great in some of those losses. I just feel like he grew a lot this season, and that's why he's my Defensive Player of the Year. Next one, we have Offensive Player of the Year. Now, my pick for Offensive Player of the Year, I will say right now, is controversial. I say that because the man didn't start the year with us. But I feel like without this person, there's a good chance we might not have finished the year the way we did, and we might not have made the playoffs. That's Colin Crawford. He was exactly what that team needed offensively to figure out what game we need to play and how we need to play it.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that pick at all. He was very much an offensive glue guy that could put some points on the board on his own. I do think there was a pretty clear pick, at least statistically, for Offensive Player of the Year, was Will Malcolm. And he could put them up in a hurry because he's got to be one of the fastest, quickest players in the league. He led the team with 35 goals. He finished second to Donville in assists with 61. He had a good year last year, but this year he really broke out and came into his own as a lacrosse player.
Speaking of Malcolm's, come to Transition Player of the Year, and I wanted to give some love to the other brother, Tony Malcolm. Probably didn't get as much play time as Will, and might not have had as big of an impact as like Medeiros or anybody like that. He really did help the team as a whole. What about for you?
Well, first off, that's completely fine. Tony Malcolm had a great year. He had a ton of loosies himself with 110, which was quite a bit more than the guy I'm going to talk to. And he also caused more turnovers as well. And he did this in 2 less games. So he really did have a good season. However, I got to go with my man, Josh Medeiros. He led the league in transition goals with 21. On top of that, had 7 assists for 28 points total. Grabbed 91 loosies, 12 caused turnovers, 8 blocks, showing you he's not a slouch on the other side of the goal. So the tandem of him and Tony Malcolm, it's real hard to separate those two because they make a lot of good things happen when they're both on the break running. He might be my favorite player.
Well, that of course brings us to what I am calling our 7th man award, Panther City. You know, that extra person who made a difference. Who do you have for your 7th man for this year?
It's tough because there were some guys that did great off the bench, but I have to give some love to Matthew Gaucher. He had 16 goals and 18 assists, and whenever he was in there, even though this was his first season, he seemed to always be in the thick of things. He might be close to the goal to get an offensive rebound for a nice putback. He might be in a scrum with 3 other opposing players all by himself fighting for that loose ball. You got to give it to the GOAT. I can see why they call him that.
Right. Honestly, for me, it's the same. We talked about him a lot this year. He is the other rookie of the year in my mind. He had really his coming out game against San Diego, where all those missing pieces were gone or out with injury.
Yeah.
And he really highlighted, like, he came out and really kept us in that game, and that really showed his worth. So yeah, Matthew Gaucher, 7th Man Award for sure for this year. Of course, all year we had our Cool Cat plays of the game. Well, this is our overall Cool Cat moment of the year. There's a ton of great plays this season. Honestly, there's too many I can think of. But for me, it was that game against Philadelphia. We're tied up, 30 seconds left. Will Malcolm, he did a juke on that Philadelphia player.
Oh, yeah.
Jukes him out of his shoes pretty much. I mean, juke of the century. I'd never seen anything like it before. I haven't seen anything like it since. Will Malcolm, you are getting my Cool Cat moment of the year. What about for yourself?
I am going a little bit closer to the end of the season. When we clinched the playoffs with our third game against Vancouver, Haas had one to tie it up, and then Medeiros finished the job for us to go up by one. And then Damude had one final stop. It probably didn't have a whole lot of a chance to go in, but just the iconic stopping it, and immediately when the buzzer sounds, getting up and celebrating because he knew what the teammate had accomplished. I thought that was just such a cool moment for everyone.
That, of course, was our Cool Cat moments of the year, which usually would bring us to our Big Cat player of the game. But who is your Big Cat player of the 2022-2023 season?
Well, I quasi-snubbed this guy earlier, so it's only fitting that I bring him back. Goalie Nick Damude. He had 624 saves on 791 shots for a stellar 79% save percentage. That was 4th in the league, only under guys like Nick Rose of Toronto, who has a very stout defense, Matt Vink of Buffalo, who's obviously in the finals playing Colorado right now, and MVP Christian Del Bianco. That's pretty nice company for a guy on an expansion team who was a bench player for San Diego before last season. Along with that 79% save percentage, he only allowed a shade over 10 goals a game with 10.31. So he took as big a leap as any player this season, next to say Will Malcolm. And I'm looking forward to what he's got in store for the future.
Oh yeah, and for me, Big Cat player of the year is Damude as well. Without his play in some of those games, we wouldn't have made it to the playoffs. Getting those blocks against Vancouver, holding them down, making sure that we get that win, securing that playoff spot. Yeah, I can't wait to see what happens for next year. Which brings us to our final category tonight. It is Game of the Year. I kind of went with the game that we didn't win. It was the playoff game against Calgary, because I think we showed the league that we belong. And that was, for me, a huge statement.
And don't forget, we didn't have Coach TK for that game either.
Yeah, we didn't even have our head coach. I mean, no offense to Steve Toll, but even though we kept it close, who knows? Things might be different. But it was a highlight for me, not only seeing the team improve like that, but then obviously with the watch party, that just even made it better, being around people who wanted the same thing as us. What about for yourself?
Well, I got to go with that comeback win over Philadelphia. That really served as a turning point in our season and got us back on track after that 3-game losing streak to go into 2023. We were at a little watch party of our own at the time out at Boomerangs in Fort Worth. With it being tied with 6 minutes left and no one's scoring for the next 5 minutes, then Will Malcolm does that great juke to get the defender kind of stumbling and then scores off that. And then to top things off, Josh Medeiros scores in transition. And all the hallmarks I love in a Panther City lacrosse club win.
Yeah, it was fun watching that game, especially like you said, just in a public setting. Other people around us, other people who didn't know what was going on, got more interested. Yeah, watching that game was just a fun time in itself. You know, talking about the game of the year. Be sure to look out for us as well. We're going to be doing a couple of episodes throughout the summer. We've got some great reviews over things that happen every month. Some interviews coming up. We'll definitely have some shows along the way. Of course, thank you all for listening. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And thank you for listening to our end of the year awards show tonight. Once again, I am Nicholas,
And I am end of season fancy award show Andrew.
and we'll see you all next time.
Great. Thank you. Cheers, y'all.